Hey students, welcome back to another session of your online English classes. Today we are going to resume our discussion on the second chapter of the 6th unit, and this video is the 6th part of the whole series. The topic of our discussion is the chapter The Talkative Barber, and in the picture you can see the Sultan and the barber who is very talkative, and this picture also refers back to the point where we had stopped our discussion in the last video, and this picture, as you already know, has been taken from your Marigold book. Just like other videos, today also we are first going to have a recap of all the things that we had discussed in the previous video. So we first saw that the barber is reminded of his own party when the Sultan tells him about the feast. The Sultan was ready to do anything to save himself from the barber. Next, we saw that the Sultan promised all the food to be given to the barber if the barber quickly finished his work. And at last, we saw that the barber wishes to see all the food. So today we are going to see what happens next. The barber looked over the food and said, "This is very good, but I shall want some more fruit for the dessert also." Okay, now students, you see that when the food was brought in and when the barber looked at all the food, he was happy, he was satisfied. Okay, he also says that it is very good, but he was not fully satisfied with it. Why? Because he wants some fruit for the dessert as well. Okay, let us see what this word dessert means. Now, the picture that you can see in front of you is that of a desert. You all know what a desert means. Yes, it is a dry land with warm climate having almost no vegetation. Okay, so if you visit a desert, you will hardly find any greenery there. Okay, but the desert that here you can see and the desert that has been mentioned in the chapter are absolutely different. How? Let us see. Alright, so this must be a very yummy picture for you, right? So you see students, there is a little difference between the desert that you see here and the desert you saw previously. The difference is that of an extra S. Alright, here these food items, the cakes, the pastries, the cupcakes, muffins, all of that, whatever you can see in front of you, all this delicious food is called dessert. And what exactly is a dessert? It is the sweet course eaten at the end of a meal. So whenever you go to a party, at the end, you are always served with something sweet. Yes, so that is called a dessert. So when the barber says that he wants some fruit for the dessert, he means that to end his meal, at the end of his meal, the sweet thing that he will provide to his guests will be some fruits. Okay, so anything that is sweet can work as a dessert. Now in Indian scenario, we have like rasgullas and gulab jamuns as desserts. But if you go outside in foreign countries, there you will have cakes, pastries as desserts. Yes, and in some places, people also have fresh fruits as desserts. Our next topic of discussion will be something related to this picture. Now, what ideas are you having by seeing this picture? Try to think about it. Let us see if your guess is correct or not. Yes, students, your guess was absolutely correct. We are going to talk about food, and right now all the things that we will discuss will increase your knowledge about food. So the thing that you can see right now is the delicious 3-course meal. Now you must be wondering what exactly a 3-course meal is. Now let us first break it down. A meal is like breakfast, lunch and dinner are called meals, but breakfast is something that we generally we take it at home, right? But for lunch and dinner we go out sometimes, and whenever you go to a fancy restaurant, you're always given a 3-course meal. Now, what are the 3 courses in each of these meals? That we will see here. All right, students. So, whenever you go to a fancy restaurant where there is a buffet going on, or you go to a party, like quite a big party, there you are always provided with starters first, then the main course, and at last you are given the dessert. Now, in some places, the 3-course meal is followed, whereas in some other places, the 5-course meal is followed. And in the 5-course meal, more number of things are included. But today we will talk only about the 3-course meal, and we will see what each of these things specifically mean. So the picture that you can now see in front of you is that of starters. Okay, now starters are also called appetizer. Okay, this is a new word for you. You can write it down in your vocabulary copy. And what is it? It is the dishes served before the main course of a meal. Okay, so whenever you go to a party, like whenever you go to wedding parties, in the very beginning you're given kebabs or tikkas or pakoras and things like that. Yes, here also you can see different types of kebabs are there. Then Sikh kebab is there, and various other food items are here. The fuchka is also there, the very famous fuchka. Okay, so these are the starters. The next course is the main course or the entree. Now, students, you must be wondering, why is ma'am pronouncing this word as entree? It is written with E, is starting with E. And why is ma'am still saying entree? It is because, students, this is a French word, and the French people, they also pronounce it in this manner only. So it's better if you pronounce it as entree. Okay, and what does it mean? It is the main course of a meal. All right, so you see here, this I'm all talking about the Indian context. Okay, here you can see chapati sort of things are there. These maybe tandoori roti or some kind of curry is there, rice is there. Yes, so all these things comprise of the main course. And finally comes the dessert. After you have had your share of starters and the main course is done and now your stomach is full, finally the sweet things come. And the sweet course eaten at the end of a meal is called dessert. In Indian contexts, it is mithais like rasgulla, gulab jamun, rabdi, jalebi, and gajar ka halwa, all these things are there. But if you go outside in other countries, there you will get cakes, pastries, cupcakes, and all these kind of things. Okay, so dessert is always something that is eaten at the end of a meal. And here in the chapter, the barber is also asking for some fruits, fresh fruits that will be sweet, so that his friends can enjoy those fruits as a dessert. The Sultan, in desperation, since his head was half shaved, ordered that the fruits should also be brought in. But before I explain this line, let us see what exactly the word desperation means. Alright, students, now pay attention to this. Here we are going to deal with two words. One is desperate and another is desperation. The word desperate is an adjective which means being filled with hopelessness. Now, the word desperate can be used in many contexts, but here we are going to deal with the meaning that you can see on your screen. Okay, so whenever a person is hopeless about something, when they have lost all hope, all positivity, at that point of time, they can be called desperate. In our case, in the talkative barber, the Sultan was also filled with hopelessness. Why? Because his head was half shaved and this barber was not stopping his chattering. Yes, that is why he was filled with hopelessness. From desperate comes the word desperation, which is a noun, which again means the act of becoming desperate or giving up hope. All right. So this is why the word desperation has been used, and I hope you can understand how exactly it is applicable to the chapter. All right, so the Sultan was desperate. Why was he desperate? Because his head was half shaved. Any person would be desperate, right? Because his work was half done. Then in his condition of desperation, what did he do? He ordered that the fruits should also be brought in so that the barber can see those. Now see what happens. The moment the fruits came, what happened? The barber left off shaving the sultan to examine each dish separately. Now just see what happened. This delayed the process even more. The sultan was thinking that if I bring everything in front of him, then at least he would hurry up. But the moment everything was brought in, it took even more time. Let us first see what examine is. The word examine means to look at a person or thing carefully in order to discover something about them. So in the picture you can see there's a scientist who is looking through a microscope. He's looking at some kind of an organism probably so that he can discover something about it. In the same way, our talkative barber was also examining each of the dishes that had been brought in front of him. So, when the barber started examining each dish separately, it took up half an hour. So, just imagine the time that he is wasting. Yes, he probably, we don't know exactly about the time, but it seems that he took about 2 to 3 hours for shaving the sultan's head. Now, let us have a quick recap of all the different things that we discussed in this video. The barber wishes to see the food that the sultan had promised. Next, when the food is brought, the barber is not fully satisfied. And what does he do? He demands some more fruits. And what was the purpose of bringing the fruits? It was that the fruits were meant to be a part of the dessert. Finally, when everything comes, the barber wastes half an hour to examine each dish separately. And we also saw that a meal has 3 courses. There are 3 parts in a meal. First one is the starter, then comes the main course, and at last comes the dessert. Now it is time for you to answer some questions. Question number 1. What extra thing did the barber ask from the sultan? Number 2. Why was the sultan desperate? Number 3. How much time did the barber waste? Number 4. What was the reason behind the delay in shaving? Number 5. What do you mean by the word desert? All these answers are very easy. Watch this video once again if you're having any problem and read the book thoroughly. Right, students, with this we come to the end of our discussion of the 6th part in the series. We will continue with the next part in the next video. Until then, stay safe and goodbye.